Mr. Arindam Lahiri, the CEO of Automotive Skills Development Council, that is ASDC. He has over 3 decades of professional experience in the manufacturing sector, followed by 2 decades of experience across all domains of education and training. He has global exposure at Honeywell USA and had an entrepreneurial stint as director and co-founder at Career Launcher India. Mr. Arindam is on the advisory board for startups, education institutions, and policy review committees of state and central ministries. Coming from an engineering background, he is MBA from IIM Lucknow. Today, Mr. Arindam will give us a brief view of skill requirements for growth and perspectives in automotive industry. So delegates, let's welcome Mr. Arindam.
Very good afternoon to my fellow panelists, the team from OEMUpdate, and also to all the participants who've taken time out, which to my mind is a very, very interesting topic that will rule our discussions over the next part of this decade at least. And hopefully we can then move on to a next number in terms of, how could we probably become the largest automotive market at some point in time. I started in the automotive industry about 3 decades back with the then, leader in the market, Maruti Udyog. And I think the automotive industry in India has come a long, long way in these 3 decades that I think all of us have been witnessing the phenomenal growth that the Indian automotive market has had and is also attracted almost every key OEMs across the world to come and operate out of this market. From that perspective, we today can boast of emission standards which are comparable to the best in the world, comparable to the Euro standards. We are getting there as far as the safety standards of the vehicles are concerned. I think the recent announcement of Bharat NCAP, I think, is a step in the right direction where we are looking at benchmarking our vehicle safety norms pegged at the global levels. And I think the bigger and the more successful story, other than being the 3rd largest market in India, is the fact that Indian auto component industry has had a significant growth where, Indian auto components are practically to be found in every vehicle maker's different models that come across the world. And in certain segments, the Indian auto suppliers, the India-based suppliers, I would say, have almost a near monopoly in the world market. Now, in that background, I think is the area that I look after currently over the past few years in my role as the CEO for Automotive Skill Development Council is an internal challenge that the industry faces in terms of having skilled manpower available to sustain this growth and also to continually reskill and upskill the existing manpower that they have. Traditionally, as we all know, the industry has moved on from being a pure mechanical industry to an electromechanical industry and now a very technology integrated industry, if I may use a very loosely held term, where I think all sorts of technology do find some application in the automobiles that the world sees today. Significantly, skilling specifically for the automotive industry is still very limited in this country. We have all kinds of engineering stream that we talk about, but if we talk about automobile engineering courses available in this country, there is still very limited capacity that we see in this particular country. Along with that, we also have very limited focus on automobile manufacturing training at the ITI level. If I were to look at, we have this very generic trade called fitter in ITI, where it's a very basic fitting job that one does. It does come in handy in terms of assembly, but it doesn't serve the purpose of the automotive industry, which operates at a scale in a mass production environment where quality and productivity are completely non-negotiable in terms of what we want to produce. And therefore, that exposure is very limited for these kind of people that come out of these institutions. Our endeavor at ASDC over the last few years has predominantly been, working towards this finishing school kind of a model where we take a diploma or a ITI kind of a candidate and try to give them the perspective of how they could use that basic knowledge into an automotive application. And I'll just give you an example, which is one of my favorite examples when I was once trying to explain what kind of courses does ASDC offer. So let's say you want to learn, I'm just taking a future skills in today's context. You want to learn the basics of data sciences, for example. You could do and pick up many courses that are available in various universities, various institutions, edtech organizations, etc. And then you will have specific software application softwares that might be used in different industry at different points in time, including an automotive industry where there could be various different areas of application that one could look at, let's say right from production to maintenance, to sales, to after sales service, and so on. Our job is essentially to take a data science grad or a data science kind of a person who's gone through the basics, give him that layer of understanding or contextualize that in the context of, let's say, automotive industry, and then help him become an automotive data scientist, where he or she figures out what are the various possible areas of application of data sciences that we could look at, and how could they apply that in the various organizations that they work for, or even working on startups, working on a very, very niche specific application that. So given that kind of a challenge, I think our continuous focus, along with this training of fresh skilled manpower to increase the pool of or the talent pool of available manpower for the industry. The other piece that we work on is largely on upskilling and reskilling of existing manpower, because technology is changing at a very furious speed. So one of the key challenges is that you need to constantly upgrade yourself. You could do that by yourself, but in India especially, or in the Eastern world, I would say, especially except for a few very developed Asian nations, there isn't so much a trend of self-upgrading your skills, and it's left to the corporates to do it. Now, how do we mix match that, bring in some elements of self-learning, as well as some elements which is provided on a corporate platform so that these people can be upgraded for the newer technologies. But overall, I think that is a very specific challenge if India were to become a third largest automotive market, unless we have enough qualified engineering oriented manpower in this country. I don't think we can only survive by selling and just by manufacturing. We need R&D, we need engineering, we need maintenance, we need assembly, we need sales, we need after sales. I think every area is important if we have to become one of the top 3 nations in the world as far as automobiles is concerned. I'll stop here. I'll not go on and talk a lot about electric vehicles and all. I can see some of the panelists are more qualified to talk about that, and I'm sure they will touch upon that, but I'll come back and share my thoughts on skilling on those areas.